In 1955, a young structural engineer named John Tilden, the T in TLC, joined forces with engineer Earl Wolpert, and the rest is TLC history. Ed Lobnitz, the L in TLC, later joined them in 1967.
Didn't really get founded. The firm evolved. And so I picked this one firm who had a mechanical engineer and a structural engineer. It was called Tilden, Denson and Associates. And they needed an electrical engineer, so I joined them as the electrical engineer, although I was a neophyte. I didn't know a whole lot, but I was the only thing they had, so yeah, we became mechanical, electrical, and structural engineering firm.
By the late 1970s, the firm was designing for the majority of architects in Central Florida.
When Disney came to Orlando, we started to work for Disney, started to do some Disney projects, but we also noticed that the airport started to grow. And we used to have one small little airport here, and once Disney came and Martin Marietta came as a big industrial organization, they designed missiles and build missiles and stuff, and so the traffic became very important. So the airport started to need help. So we fortunately got involved with the people that knew the airport and started to help them with their design of the airport. So that got us into airport work at that point.
In 1981, Ed assumed the role of CEO and formed a subsidiary company called CAD-XI, Computer Aided Design Software Incorporated, which was a technology way ahead of its time. This investment spearheaded many unique and challenging projects that molded TLC and set the course for TLC's commitment to embracing developing technology.
But we were probably one of the first engineering companies in the architectural engineering field to start using CAD and helping to develop it with the architects. And we started growing, and we got more and more of these stations, and stations got smaller, and so we got more smaller stations that we could put in offices and stuff. But the software behind it all took up probably half of this floor.
In the late 1970s, the state of Florida awarded a contract to provide inspections and document reviews of healthcare facilities to medical facilities consultants, a joint venture formed by TLC and Hunt & Brady.
One of the biggest changes that TLC was involved with in the industry and in the culture of the industry, when we were doing healthcare work, it would take 6 to 8 months to submit a set of drawings and get it approved to even begin to start thinking about building. And the hospital owners were very upset about it, and their senators and people got on to at that time, I think it's still called Agency for Healthcare Administration, AHCA. They got all over them and the governor at the time. We got with Hunt & Brady Architects, and we formed a company called Medical Facilities Consultants, or MFC, as everybody knows it by, MFC. So we had this separate entity, and I think it was 10 to 12 years we operated that. And we built up the whole state of Florida's code enforcement and plans review process and everything.
But getting exposed to support of the state agency for the plan review and inspection process kind of opened my eyes and broadened my perspective of the work that goes into having a hospital built and those sorts of things there. So it gave me exposure to not just the engineering design perspective of it, but the owner side, the contractor side of making all that work to have the hospital be completed or the project be completed accordingly there. So I enjoyed all that. I got a vast exposure to codes and regulations that serves me today and serves me well as it relates to appreciating kind of what those attributes or those things that are necessary to get the hospital built in the manner it is there. So really great exposure from it very early in my career that has again served me interacting with owners, interacting with architects, interacting with contractors and such.
In the early 1990s, national design firm Management Experience came to TLC when architect John Benz joined the firm as CEO.
And I came in as president and CEO, and then became chairman ultimately when Ed Laudnitz backed out of that role. I was very growth oriented, as you can see from the previous firm, which I joined at 16 people and left at over 500. That was a lot of growth.
I've known John since 83. He was my big boss at HLM, where we both were partners, and just got to know him very well. He ended up moving to Florida, joined TLC. I was still in my other employment and decided they were having a transition that wasn't working well. And I decided this is not something I can affect positively, so I decided to leave and join John. And it was an interesting transition for me because I was used to being the prime on the AE side, and then all of a sudden I became marketing for a consultant. But we, kind of worked that out by marketing to them as they market to their clients. So John was very instrumental in training me to really understand the business side of design and engineering, and helped me really get my feet wet in every aspect of how a business runs, what you need to know about IT, about HR, about the production operations side of things. So he by far was the most influential person for me.
The vision was to grow the firm and develop these offices in these various locations, which we did and which you have now. And some of that you've continued to do, that Michael's gone and developed additional capability in different locations. So you have two clients. You have the architect and you have the architect's client. And it's a delicate dance.
But one of the other things that John Benz had done was he changed the trajectory of the firm by understanding how we could grow faster and better. And John really went after hiring engineering candidates with engineering degrees that could ultimately become professional engineers. And before we sort of aimed on that course, we had project managers that had come up through the ranks, and oftentimes they were non-engineering graduates. They didn't have professional engineering licensure, but they were managing projects, although they were not engineers, and therefore they were not providing the engineering service and design. And John changed that.
In 2000, TLC continued its growth with the appointment of its first chief operating officer, Senator Bud Gardner.
I'm Bud Gardner, and I was here from about 2000 2008 in Orlando as the chief operating officer, and in fact I was the first chief operating officer for TLC. TLC was growing. when we joined TLC, it was a time when TLC had a contract with the state for healthcare stuff. And that was coming to an end. And so when we joined TLC, I think the only other office that, I guess there was, I'm not sure there was a Miami office then, but I think there was one in Fort Myers and the one in Tallahassee. we had about 100 employees. And then when I came over, I don't know what the number was when I came over, but when I retired, we had about 450 employees. So it was a pretty substantial growth period that we had.
20 years ago, the term green building had recently been defined by the creation of LEED, which established a baseline measurement for a holistic system that promoted sustainability and environmental consciousness within the built environment. TLC was an early adopter of incorporating the LEED rating system into its designs and officially became a member of the USGBC in 2001.
For TLC, it really was our leap into sustainability at the right time and our commitment to becoming leaders in that, because it was really a paradigm shift for the entire design community, and it put us more on par with our architects as partners versus just a consultant. And it just was, you know, the confluence of the right time and the right place, and we pounced on it. You know, we got out there, we were teaching with Kim Shin was our guru out on the road. And I think that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of, because I felt like it was a calling beyond just doing buildings. It was a calling to help impact the environment, not only of our buildings, but of the earth itself.
Later on, as sustainability became an issue with our projects, I think TLC was out on the bleeding edge of sustainability, and we were there because we had a number of champions that were uniquely positioned and solely interested in doing those kinds of things. And you know, guys like Kim Shin and Brian Lamel and Mark Gelfo really aspired to doing that. And I think that became a great differentiator for the firm, that not only could we deliver quality engineering services, which, by the way, the architects are expecting you to do that, but then we could also help them with implementing and incorporating sustainability measures, not only in the engineering solution, but in the architectural solution. And I know Kim, our sustainability wizard, did a lot of presentations to architects about things that they were involved with in their design to make their projects better.
I think TLC became a leader in sustainability, especially in the markets that we serve, the Southeast principally, and the healthcare industry, because we really were early adopters of the ideas behind high performance buildings and sustainability. And because we were early adopters, we were able to be first to market. And we took a great deal of care to make sure that we educated our clients, both architects and their clients, the building owners, about the advantages of green building practice. So between really buying into the idea of green building internally, we were able to convince a number of our clients to adopt those things. We've been very much leaders in the professional organizations that are associated with green buildings, the American Institute of Architects, the U.S. Green Building Council, the Urban Land Institute. That helped us really cement our position and reputation for being green building experts in the markets that we serve.
In 2004, Deborah Lupton took the helm as CEO, guiding TLC through challenging times with resilience and strategic foresight. Her leadership not only ensured the firm's survival, but also drove its expansion and strengthened a culture of excellence that remains a cornerstone of its success.
During my tenure at TLC, we had two transitions at the CEO level. One was from John to Deborah, and the second was from Deborah to Michael. And I think each were interesting in their own way. When we transitioned to Deborah, like John, is an architect. And so you have an architect at the helm of an engineering firm, which gives you a lot of insights as to the way architects think and what they value and how you sell engineering services to architects. And so that was really important to have Deborah at the helm during her time as CEO. Deborah also navigated some really challenging times for the company, and not only just our company, but basically for the industry, with workload curtailment. Basically, a lot of things came to a grinding halt, and her vision and how to manage those downturns was really important to keeping the firm viable and successful, and more importantly, the doors open for business.
Recession was probably the most significant thing. It was, the design industry as a whole was hit twice as hard as most any other business. So even though, quote, the recession was over, for us, it kind of kept dragging on and on and on. And it was a very, very difficult time, because you had to make decisions that were affecting people's lives and their families. But I had to decide that, I had to keep the mothership afloat. Initially, when that happened, we saw the line, do this, and we lost about $9 million in revenue, just go flat and stop. So it was a real crisis, and I learned how important it was to act quickly and decisively and to communicate with the staff about what's going on.
Michael Sheeran, who became CEO in 2015, is steering TLC towards a more sustainable future with a focus on environmental responsibility and high-performance engineering. He is championing initiatives that align with the company's commitment to creating lasting positive impacts through innovative and intentional design.
We flip-flopped basically, where I took over running the group, and he was still a senior engineer resource in the healthcare group, which is weird because you're somehow supposed to be the boss of one of the names on the door, and you're not really the boss of a person whose name is on the door. You're working alongside that person, and quite frankly, I learned as much when I was supposed to be his boss as when he was my boss. In 2014, our CEO, Deborah Lupton, had notified us that she was going to retire. And so they set about a path of, the board set about a path of evaluating candidates for CEO. And I threw my hat in the ring because it was as much opportunity for me and progression. Not that I didn't enjoy and love running the healthcare team, but it just seemed to make sense to some extent, and the board somehow agreed.
You all may not know this, and there's certain board information that shouldn't be made public, but I'm going to share with you that the board unanimously voted Michael as the CEO. And that was that day. And there is some trepidation when you put a new person in charge of the company. Are they going to excel in that position? Or are they going to flounder? What's going to happen? And I think proof positive, and the proof of the pudding, is take a look at TLC today under Michael's leadership. And even though I've been retired for 8 years, I still get the emails about promotions, acquisitions, mergers, and the success of the company. It's pretty darn amazing to see where this company is now.
As we look to the future, TLC remains committed to innovation and sustainability, driven by a vision to create lasting impacts through high-performance design.
I think our staff tenure is awesome. Our staff turnover rates are awesome. We're trying to do the right things for all of our staff as much as we can every single day. So I think there's success in that. I would still say at my heart, I'm an engineer. So I am still super proud and excited to all of the projects that we work on. And even now that I don't get to say, hey, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this project, but I am telling my kids, hey, we did that project as a firm. So I still go back to loving the projects that we do.
I think it's a very exciting time for TLC and to be at TLC, because I think we are really poised to do even greater things than we've been doing. I think that, the locations that we are and the markets that we're in, we're right on the cusp of just exploding. I see us continuing to grow in the places where we have offices in major markets, and see us, really having the opportunity to dominate in places like Philadelphia and DC and Charlotte and Atlanta and Dallas and Fort Worth, and these major metropolitan areas where we already have, a good foothold and great leaders and great staff. And I really just think the sky is the limit for us as we continue to grow and expand what we're doing in these areas.
My aspirations for the future of TLC is carrying what we do in the design side into building operations. So we do a lot in planning projects and designing projects and even commissioning projects where we're really embedding high performance of the buildings. And now there's an evolution where there's something called building energy performance standards. As an example, in some places those are becoming regulations. So now all of a sudden those buildings have to actually meet a performance or get a grade or whatever version of the particular municipality is adopting. But in whether because of that or whether simply because we know how to help an owner optimize how their building runs, we can and should find a path to supporting an owner through that activity. And that's my aspiration. In the next 5 to 10 years, that will be a thread somewhere in the things that we're doing, the things that we already do to some extent, but want to and will develop deeper focus into that. And then I think we'll be working hard in both being focused on where and how we're growing to some targeted places and targeted services. And then also we would try and figure out how to make sure we're managing the scale of who we are, as a firm. We've gotten to a nice size. The industry is moving in a variety of different paths, and some folks are becoming or are really small and will probably remain that way, and then a lot of firms are blowing up, absolutely blowing up in size. And I don't know that is specifically our path, but some version where we have the scale to make sure that we can satisfy what our clients need. We have to be very, very mindful of being able to provide the scale that is needed for delivering those things.
The best part of being at TLC is there's a lot of best parts. We get to work on some really cool projects, really cool stuff that a lot of times we take for granted because we're just working on the project and we move on to the next one. But we work for major clients and on big projects and technically complex projects, and we're helping to make our little corners of the world a better place in a lot of times. And I think we need to stop and recognize that and think about it and just appreciate what we are doing to improve the AEC industry and the built environment, because what we do is really cool.
Opportunity. Where else can a kid with just a high school diploma, do what I've been able to do over my career here? You don't get that opportunity anywhere else. Bob Danner, same thing. Tom Munson. I can go. There's lists and lists of folks that not necessarily had a degree, but were given an opportunity and they ran with it. TLC is pretty good about providing those opportunities, and it's yours to do with. I basically, in my career, I run my own show, and they afford me that opportunity.
The best part of TLC to me is the people. You know, I get to work with some fantastic folks, you know, not only in finance, but, you know, some of the, you know, when you look at the projects these people are, you know, putting out, you know, complete airside at an airport, you know, hospitals from the ground up, you know, just the Performing Arts Center, you look at these things and these are smart people.
And the people you meet in terms of our staff and our clients, and I think the projects in their way, yes, they have their challenges, but they give you a chance to kind of bond with the folks to solve problems and accomplish things that really have meaning. And it's nice to drive down the street or drive by with your friends and your family and point to buildings and let them know you had some involvement with that. It's rewarding, and I think that's a big part of what drives us as engineers and makes it successful.
The best part of being at TLC has certainly been a lifelong opportunity to have purpose in this world, do important, impactful work for the communities that we live in and that sort of thing there. So it's certainly given me purpose, and without question, certainly all the people that I have come to know through the years, and whether they be a client or a coworker or you know, whoever it may be, or people out in the community that are still dear friends today.
The best part of being a member of the team at TLC is getting the opportunity to work with a great team on projects that are important to the communities that they serve. Things like courthouses, libraries, hospitals. These are the buildings that make up the fabric of our society. And the fact that we, TLC, have been important members of those teams in creating that part of our communities is really the most important part of my job.
After 70 years of remarkable milestones, TLC eagerly anticipates the chapters yet to come, building on their legacy with a vision for the future and continuing the journey with purpose and innovation.